Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack III.
Hello, America. I'm really excited to be here. This is On the Move. This is the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. We talk about all sorts of things here, heavily focused on philosophy, natural law. I'm a libertarian with some conservative leanings, and I'm here to give you the news of the day through that lens. If you'd like to join today's conversation, I'd love to have you. I'd much rather have a dialogue than a monologue, but I did come prepared to speak. So, if you have anything on your mind at all, the telephone number is 360-450-5625. Again, that's 360-450-5625. The Mack phone lines are open, so feel free to light them up. Today's episode is titled A Sincere Message to Black Americans. This is episode 157 of On the Move Show. I, of course, am your host, Mack III, and let's go ahead and dive right into the featured topics. I'll go ahead and tell you what we're going to be talking about today. I want to speak directly to the black community about the problems their community faces, and it's not just specific to their community, but these are the complaints that they're levying, and I think it's important that we address them. I think it's important that we talk directly to their problems that they themselves address. And I want to make the pro-liberty argument. I want to talk about why bigger government, police state, war on drugs, these are not the solutions. These are, in fact, the problems. We're going to lay down the case. I want to make the argument directly to the African-American community, the black American community. And I want to talk about what can help them. And also why the free market solution not only is better, but it is more freedom for everyone. I want to read an article here. This will probably be in the second hour, maybe the third hour, if we go into an overdrive today. I want to read an article by Mark Watkins, a good friend of mine. He wrote an article about what if Jeb Bush had won the presidency. So I want to read that. I think it gives some superb analysis, and kudos to Mark. My hat's off to you, bud. Also, YouTube has been increasingly demonetizing conservatives and libertarians. I want to talk about my personal experience with this. I've been seeing a trend of my YouTube videos being demonetized, which means that you don't make any AdSense revenue from advertising on your video. They just turn off advertising, and they literally, in this way, they're taking money out of your pocket for advertising services that you may or may not get on a video. So, why is this a big deal? And why is this something that I'm even going to talk about? Well, I'll explain it. I'll explain why. This is, in fact, a form of censorship, and especially when it's specific and targeting a certain group of people or people with certain views. And moreover, it's also it goes towards the incentive for people to do this kind of stuff. Do the stuff that I'm doing right here. Look, I don't make a whole lot of money. I'll just be frank. I do not make a whole lot of money through YouTube. But the money that I have made through YouTube has helped get the show bigger and get it to the point where it is right now. It's paid for microphones. It's paid for mixers. It's paid for computer equipment so that we can do this show and make it a better quality. And I'm going to talk about this and also talk about some of the other people that I'm hearing have been demonetized. So anyway, also another featured topic, the Russians, the citizens in Russia, some of them are rioting. There was a few hundred, I think it was a 500 people riot or protest that was going on. I guess it really wasn't a riot now that I think about it. But the government came in and called it an illegal protest and started shutting it down. And I think this is something that we need to look at and at least focus on for a moment. Then I have to talk about this travesty that is happening right now. There's a pair that was behind Planned Parenthood, those sting videos. They're being charged in California. So I have an article from that I want to read, and I got a whole lot more that we're going to get to today. So if you have anything on your mind at all, please feel free to give us a call. The number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, 360-450-5625. We'll be right back after this break.
Have you visited the On the Move with Mack store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support. Are you an activist who needs affordable flyers or brochures for passing out literature? Or a political candidate who's looking for business cards, logo designs, yard signs, or vehicle decals? Email me, Latasha Worley, for all your graphic design needs at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com. And don't forget to mention On the Move to get a 10% discount on all graphic design services.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
All right, MacPack, we're back. At this point, we're joined by a caller. Hey, caller, what's your name and where you're calling from? Oh, looks like we lost you. Give us a call back if you hear it. If you get a chance, 360-450-5625. Again, 360-450-5625. All right, so we're going to go ahead and dive right in unless we get another call here. Let me bring up the featured topics again. Okay, so I want to talk directly to the African American community, the black community. And I think that it's first of all, it's very important to know that we are all the same. Really, human beings are not as complex as we may think ourselves to be. We operate on a series of incentives and disincentives. So what do we all want? We all want to be free. We all want to be happy. We all want our children to do well. We all want to leave something behind for our family. I think we're not as different as the parties make us out to be and how they try to demonize us. So we got a caller on the line. Hey, caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Detroit, Michigan. Elijah Woody.
Hey, Elijah. What's going on? What's on your mind, bud?
Not much. Chilling. I was listening. Seeing you. You was going live on the radio talking about the blacks in America or whatever.
Yes, sir. You got something to say?
No, I was just going to comment on whatever you were saying.
Oh, well, so this topic. Let me just give you a little backstory here. I first of all, I was watching. Was it Barbershop? I think the second Barbershop. It seems to be very political. And as I was sitting there watching it, I grab a pen and paper and I'm writing down complaints. And these are complaints that I've heard from my friends. I've heard from black community activists, community organizers talking about, and a lot of it is what's going on in the streets. Why why is there so much crime? Why is there so much gang activity? And why is it unsafe? These are really some of the big themes of that movie in particular. And it got me thinking, and I've made the argument piecemeal, one piece at a time since I've been doing this show. And I want to make the argument and take the pro-liberty argument and just talk to the black community about this. And that's a point of this show today. I want to talk about why pro-liberty arguments are, in fact, something that will best serve not just the black community, but all communities in general. And I really want to get us past this polarization where we start demonizing each other and breaking ourselves down into these little political groups or constructs, no matter what it is, just talking about separating ourselves and how the other guy's evil, and we can't even begin to listen to the other person, and this is all about political correctness and echo chambers, and that's never a good thing. So I just want to talk. So what do you think about what's affecting the black community?
I mean, for one, they're brainwashed. That's for starters. Of course, I stay in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? And me going to school young, we was automatically raised to vote Democrat. That's a problem now that I'm older. I see that's a problem. So we also, for instance, they make the cost of living so high and so crazy that both parents work 2 jobs, barely spend time with their kids. You can't chastise your kids anymore. You can't discipline them without CPS getting called on you. You know what I'm saying? There's no more structure inside the home while the parents getting in trouble. So now kids are watching TV and the government just feeding them all this bull crap. But there's no disciplines and reactions behind none of it. You know what I'm saying? If the parents do try to step up, now let's go to jail. Let's go fight this case because you gave your child a whooping or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's the main problem. And then people are uneducated. I was uneducated too at one point of a time. Now I own a gun. You know what I'm saying? I know people personally that don't have no felons and feel like they can't go get a gun. They got to have a CPL just to go buy a gun. That's 100% wrong. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is go into a gun store, say, hey, I want to try to purchase a gun. They take your information. There you go. But people don't know that. They're scared to go into gun stores to even buy ammo. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a lack of knowledge that will make everything so bad. And then when you do, and then we're so brainwashed. Cops do what they want to do our whole life. We watch them do what they want to do. That when we get older, guess what we think what they're doing? Everything they're doing wrong, we still think they're doing the right thing. You know what I'm saying? We don't know that they are doing wrong. We're dealing with our whole life, and it's been a cycle of the same thing. You would never think something is wrong with that cycle. You know what I'm saying? Unless someone told you something is wrong with it. So that's our problem. We're uneducated, and we go off what we see.
So with the cycle, I really want to break this down and tell me. So, what are some of the things that you're seeing as far as in this cycle, especially pertaining to police? Since you brought them up, what are they doing? And do you think that it's different down racial lines? Do I, as a white man, get different treatment than you as a black man, or is it
most definitely?
And is that because of the color of my skin?
Most definitely. I'm gonna say this. I don't like to look at everything in color. Yes, white people, they get in trouble, man. It's not as worse as it is for a black person. For instance, I'm gonna use my incident yesterday. Friday. I walked into a Coney. I pull up to a Coney Island and grab food for me and my family. I see the police car parked right next to it, right? I go into the Coney Island, 2 officers sitting down having lunch. They on break. They're not on duty, they're on break. Sitting down having their lunch. I go up to the counter, I tell them here to pick up an order. The 2 officers see a bulge of my firearm on my side. They get up, come question. You got a CPL? Yeah, I got a CPL. Here you go, sir. Then he want to write down all of my information. What was all of that for? You asked me if I had a CPL. I showed you yes. I showed you my CPL. Why did you have to go farther with it? Why you just couldn't take my CPO and push on and keep on moving, go back and sit down and eat? And then you know something's wrong with it when, because you didn't get me the way you thought you was going to get me, now you want to hit me with disorderly conduct.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. That's your scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of here. You got to come better than that. And that's the problem. That's why the black community don't like cops. I know people that have walked out of the store and just get pat down by the cops. Why is that? That's an issue.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? And again, and guess what? If we try to fight it, we can't. We don't have the money. We don't have the funds to sit up there and fight that.
So let me ask.
So now we taking pleas. Now we taking pleas and we stuck with a felony for something we didn't. You know what I'm saying? For something that shouldn't even be done in the first place.
Yeah. No, and I agree. But let me ask you. First of all, I will, just from my firsthand experience, that is not something that is specific to just the black community. That, for example, I was arrested. You know.
So you've seen that happen in the suburbs? You seen somebody walk out of the store and the cop just pull up on them and start patting them down for no reason?
Okay, well, look, and again, so part of the reason why I think police officers are doing that, and I'm absolutely not making any mistake, in fact, or any excuses for them. In fact, I condemn this. Is the response, because what they're trying to do, what they are trying to accomplish, the police, is to reduce crime if they're not actually in fact doing it for other reasons like racism or something. And I am the first to admit there is racist in this country. I don't think that they're a majority. I don't think they're a large portion of the population. I think it's a fringe element. And I one of the things I want to also point out is I don't think it does any service to anyone to call everyone racist for everything. That should be reserved for the people who are, in fact, doing things for racist reasons. Those are the real racists, and I think it weakens that argument to just start throwing race into everything. But what the police are doing in these African American communities, if they are being heavy-handed, if they're going out and being overzealous and patting people down who aren't breaking any laws, if they're conducting searches without probable cause or reasonable suspicion, first of all, I don't care what color the person is. I'm against the police doing that, period. I personally was unlawfully arrested in a suburb area. I'm not sure if you know my case, but I was open carrying, got arrested. Now, granted, that's kind of a different scenario than just somebody walking down the street and going into a convenience store getting pat down. However, the reason for that, the police are reacting to violence, and they're trying to go out and stop it. Now, I think that's the wrong answer. The answer for government creating problems is not ever going to be government solving the problems. And the reason why...
You want to know the easy...
Go ahead. What were
Go
you
ahead. The easy... I'm going to tell you this. This is facts. This is 100% facts. The quickest and easiest way to slow down violence and crime is to bring in constitutional carry, which means you do not need a CPL to conceal carry. Just think about it.
Agreed.
If you make it where everybody can carry, who's going to walk into a store and want to rob it knowing that it's 50 people in this mall?
Yeah.
Now, that 50, it could be a good 40, if not 50, armed.
Yeah. Look,
you know what I mean?
I'm the first one to agree with you there.
It's going to cut down a lot of, but that's not going to happen. You know why? It's all about revenue.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's about money.
It's a police.
So why would I let you do constitutional carry when I can force you? Look, it is black folks out here that's actually good people that carry illegal firearms just for their protection. And guess what? Just because you're doing that, we're going to fuck you over. We're not going to make it easy on you. We know that it costs money to get a CPL. We know you got to take this 8-hour class. We know this. We know that your water bill and gas bill skyrocket high. We know this. We know that minimum wage is real low where you barely have money. We know this.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Detroit have the highest taxes in the Michigan has the highest car insurance in the world. In the world. You know what I'm saying? We're going to tax you. We're going to make it hard for you. We're going to force you to defend yourself, whether it's right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? We're going to force you to do what you got to do to survive. And we're going to catch you doing it.
I absolutely support constitutional carry, and I agree with you. I do think that if everyone was carrying, or everyone who wanted to carry was allowed to carry, and weren't having to have the fear of being harassed by police just for being just for carrying. Like, for example, your experience of being harassed by police simply for being armed. That may make you not. I mean, and maybe not necessarily you, but some people may feel discouraged from that and not want to carry. For example, when I was unlawfully arrested, I actually couldn't carry because I didn't have a concealed carry permit. I couldn't apply for one because I was in this limbo state where I was being prosecuted, and then afterwards, after I ended up losing the first trial.
Me 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, after the first trial, I was in this little probation window where if I so much as jaywalked, I would have gone to jail for a year from the last conviction, which, by the way, we overturned later. But during that time, the only way I could have carried a gun would have been openly, and I was arrested for open carry. Who wants to risk going to jail for a year again simply because they're carrying a gun? This action, what they're doing with that is chilling the Second Amendment. They're cooling your rights and discouraging people from doing it. This is again, I spoke about it before, incentives and disincentivizations. That is what they're doing. They're disincentivizing you to carry, and they're saying that they're going to protect you from all the bad things out in the world. You don't need a gun. Let the police carry, and let the police protect you. And then what we see is the police come in heavy-handed and violate our rights in the process. And this is a classic argument of security over rights, over liberty. And again, as Benjamin Franklin has said, those who would sacrifice liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and will lose both. And it's absolutely true. This is not just specific to the black community. This is everybody who plans on asserting their rights. But more importantly, why would it be better for African Americans or anybody in general to be able to carry without having to worry about the police harassing them? Because their neighborhoods would be safer. Because people wouldn't know who's carrying a gun and who's not. And again, the gun is not the problem. The gun's just a tool. The gun allows you
to... It's people.
Exactly. It's people. So I want to focus here. And actually, I'm really happy that you called in. I want to talk about some of the things that you actually spoke about as far as no structure inside the home. That was one of the points that you said, is that there's no structure inside the home. People are either having to work, have two parents who are working jobs, so they're out of the home, and young people are alone in their house. They don't have that structure. They don't have somebody teaching them values. Young black men in those situations are stolen essentially from their families, and in many cases they look towards gangs to be their family, to provide them that structure. And it's really sad. And the gangs, it is a huge phenomenon of what's happening, especially in Chicago. This is one of the reasons why violence is extremely high. It's because a lot of these people, and this is not just a black thing, it's people trying to defend their territory with drugs, and realizing that the people who can secure this kind of territory, secure this kind of money, because that's what it comes down to, are the people that are the most ruthless and willing to kill people. And
well, it's not about... I can't speak for Chicago. I don't stay there. Never have. Never been there. I can speak for Detroit and I have stayed in.
Yeah.
It's not territory that we're protecting. It's money. It's money. I'm gonna give you a scenario. You got two people selling weed. You got two people selling weed 2 blocks over from each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one person weed might be better than the next person. But the other person that's weed better, the other person before him was selling weed, let's say a year before you came around with your good weed and started selling. Now you taking money out this man's pocket. That's where the issue come in at.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the issue. It's not I just want to kill you just because.
Yeah.
No, you taking money out of my pocket.
It's
you know
incentives and disincentivizations. And to the point here, that's not a black-white phenomenon. That is a human phenomenon. That is people trying to look out for their own and doing what is necessary in some cases to scrape by. Now, the issue, and this is the conundrum. This is the problem. How do you solve the violence coming from the gang communities? And how do you stop it? Some people would say we turn to the police. But
how do you think on the streets? That's my number one question I want to ask everybody. All these guns the police keep taking, right?
Mm-hmm.
They caught him. All these guns. We don't really see we never see on the news somebody break into a gun store. Where's these guns coming from?
Well, let's be clear. The United States government themselves has actually been caught gun running in Operation Fast and Furious. A lot of those guns made their way to the cartels, and some of those guns, by the way, were found with El Chapo. He was caught with a 50 caliber machine gun, I believe, or maybe it was a Barrett sniper rifle. I know it was 50 cal, and when they caught him after he escaped from prison, he had Fast and Furious guns. Fast and Furious guns, by the way, were used from terrorists attacking in France. Those were connected to those guns that were walked across the border by the Obama administration during Operation Fast and Furious. So the guns are on the streets, first of all, to begin with. They've always been there. Second of all, they're easy to make. Third of all, there's a constant flow of guns. Guns will never go away, and that's not the problem. But what the statists will tell you is that we need to. And in fact, in that barbershop movie I was watching last night, one of the solutions that they were talking about to solve gang violence was to actually gate in sections of the city, actually fence it in and have entry control points, and they were hoping that would alleviate some of the violence. These are statist solutions, and these are what people really think about. They think about how the government can forcefully solve. More. Exactly. You're literally creating.
That's not going to do nothing.
A worse situation. Yeah, it's going to be worse. So how do you fix that then? If you have gangs that are willing to kill for money because of what's going on with the drug trade, how do you solve that if you don't turn to the police?
Make it where people can easily find them a job and work. Open up more opportunities.
Okay. Well, how do you do that?
Man, I don't know.
Okay, so here's my idea. And
they got a way. They not do everything else. They got a way. They just don't want to do it.
Here's my idea, Elijah, and just hear me out, okay? Because I know this is going to sound kind of extreme. I'm a libertarian. If you don't know that about me, I do not believe in the war on drugs or any form of prohibition. And what I mean by that is government trying to get involved and ban things, to control activity and basically central plan, try to fix problems. The government is actually, in my opinion, the creation of most of our problems. What we're seeing right now is the government has banned drugs, okay? So let's marijuana through even the crazy stuff like black tar heroin, okay? If the government just simply stopped banning that, if the government legalized that stuff across the board, let me ask you, what do you think is going to happen to the underground, unregulated, untaxed black market that's supplying these drugs right now? What do you think would happen if it was all legal?
It's going to be worse.
You think?
I actually think.
You think the violence would get worse?
The crime rate it most definitely would. And the reason being is that it's going to be more access to drugs, which means everybody's going to have it. I mean, everybody's trying to sell it to make a dollar. That's the whole point of the drug. I mean, but if you just made it where they can go to a store and buy it, I think the violence would just stop completely. You know what I'm saying? There'd be no reason to kill no more.
Exactly.
But to make it legal for people to sell it, that's the problem.
Well, if you made it legal for everyone, no matter who to sell it, to include corporations, like for example, you don't see Tylenol in a gang war with Advil PM. You know what I mean? This doesn't happen. They're not killing each other for taking their customers. The reason why they're not is because they're legitimate businesses, and they're, instead of fighting in a literal sense of it, they're fighting through competition. They're fighting to sell their product that way. If there was complete legalization across the boards, and I think that it would, first of all, it would not only here in America, it would reduce the violence. I think here in America, it would remove the incentive for these gangs to be involved in underground activity. There would be no reason for them to be involved in violence. They could do everything above board and legitimate and still make the same money, probably more, and it would reduce the violence as a result of it. Now, look, I don't condone, crazy drugs. I'm not trying to say, look, everybody go do heroin or something. But I don't think that first of all, I don't have a right to come into your house and tell you what you can put into your body and what you can't, and throw you into a cell if you do something against my wishes. I don't have that right.
Like they do. What they do. It's illegal to smoke weed without a card, or you can't do heroin or drug, or what they say, click of the ticket for my own life. But you sit up here and put cancer products in our food. You can kill me, but I can't kill myself.
Yeah. The problem here, and this is a trend that I have noticed, is that we're no longer actually talking about preventing people from hurting other people or from taking their stuff. We're trying to do pre-crime to prevent it before it happens. So, like, we're not punishing people for stealing to feed their drug habit. Instead, we're throwing people in jail because they have a drug habit, hoping that will prevent the crime of theft. But theft was a crime to begin with, and if somebody wasn't even stealing to begin with, then why throw them into the jail? Why waste taxpayer money? In fact, you're punishing taxpayers by doing that. It costs a lot of money to house, feed, secure, provide medical care for a prisoner. That it doesn't make any sense. You're costing the taxpayers money, and it's actually not very effective. If you made drugs legal, it would reduce the violence, and I do believe that this phenomenon of gangs that is happening across America would be dramatically damaged. I think this would really destroy the gang community. Not to mention the Mexican cartels, so many other organized crime around the world that are contingent on the American consumer buying their drugs. If we,
but if there's too much drugs out here, then that's going to be an issue because now everyone has it.
Well, let me ask you.
Let's say I'm a drug dealer. Right?
Yeah.
And my next door neighbor's a drug dealer. Now they done made it where it's legal for everybody. So now, man, him like, oh shoot, man, I'm about to really, start selling. Now I don't care who sees me. Well, not everybody's selling on the corner. I can't make my money to survive. I got to knock them off to make my money.
Look, I understand where you're coming from, and first of all, I will say, I'm sure there will always be somebody who feels incentivized to commit violence against somebody. But the issue here is finding the people that are actually hurting others and taking their stuff and locking them in jail. That's all we can do. We can't stop that before it happens. All we can do is when it does happen, we can throw those guys in jail until they're no longer a danger to society.
Here's another thing that we could do to make it easier for a lot of people, man. We are sentenced with a 2-time. Once you go to jail for a felony, you're doomed for life, and I'm gonna tell you why. And this is the real problem. Okay, I go to jail, I catch my felon, I go to court, I get locked up, I do 5 years, right? I get out with a felon. It's hard for me to find a job, it's hard for me to do anything now, right? Mm-hmm. So how am I supposed to survive? Now I got to break the law in order to survive. But I feel that if a person do his time locked up, when he get out, if you feel he's safe enough to be in the community, he should have all his rights like he did before he went and got locked up. You know what I'm saying? That felony shouldn't follow him when he get out. It shouldn't. That's a 2-time sentence. I'm doing a sentence locked up. Now I'm still doing. I got my freedom to breathe air and go to the bathroom if I want. But I'm still facing a whole other sentence because now it's hard for me to find a job. I can't do what I want to do no more. You know what I'm saying? But if you take that from the weapon and you raise into the country, so you don't get all your privileges back. There you go. That'll cut down a lot of crime.
So let me
because a lot of people get locked up and get out and say, you know what, I got to change. And they actually, I know people personally that actually try to change, but it's so hard that they're condoned. They're condoned. And they do nothing but do the same thing that got them locked up in the first place. Why? Because now I can't find me a job. I'm trying to do good. And look, then I get out on probation. I got to pay my probation officer $100 a month. Like, you know, it becomes hard. It's hard, man. It's hard.
Look, I can understand that. And that's another reason why drugs should be legal. There's ridiculous amount of people in our prisons right now that are there for nonviolent crimes and nonviolent felonies, by the way, such as drug possession. If we're disenfranchising people by throwing them in jail, first of all, they didn't hurt others, they didn't take their stuff, so the crime that they were thrown in jail for shouldn't be a crime to begin with. But then they have a stigma associated with it because they were selling drugs or whatever. Now, if they did decide to change their life, and stop selling drugs or do something different, go legitimate. Now they can't get a legitimate job. And look, I understand that, but first of all, let's look at the solution here. Okay, let's try to figure out what we could do about that. First of all, one of the things that I've been advocating for is halfway houses. I absolutely, first of all, I don't think that if you violate the non-aggression principle, which is you hurt others, you take their stuff, or you shouldn't hurt others or take their stuff. If you violate that should be a crime. You should go to jail. Now, varying degrees in that, depending on how heinous the crime is, you should go to jail for longer or not. But let's say in the instance of drugs, I don't think you should go to jail for that at all. As long as you're not hurting others or taking their stuff. Now, if you're breaking into people's houses to feed your drug habit, that's a crime. You've took somebody's stuff. Now you should be punished for that. But as far as nonviolent offenders, I think nonviolent offenders, people who have committed, for example, let's say Grand Theft Auto. All right, let me lay out a scenario for you, Elijah. Let's say I'm a car thief and I steal your car. All right. Let's say you're out of this $5,000 car. Let's say $5,000, and I take it to a chop shop. It's gone. You get no restitution. You're not paid back for the money that I ripped you off of. And then if I get caught, you're still not paid back. Now, in fact, you're actually punished again here because now you have to pay taxes towards housing me, feeding me, securing me, my medical care, all this stuff, and you're actually hurt twice. So the real answer, I think, is not to make me a felon in that instance and make it so that I'm going to fall into a cycle and potentially end up just back in jail. And again, you're still being punished from that cycle because you continue to have to house me and your neighborhoods aren't safer. We have more crime, more violence. It's not effective to do it like this. The way that we do it is create a halfway house. Have people get jobs, you work, you have to pay your overhead, all the costs associated with housing and feeding you and all this stuff, and you have to check into this halfway house, and you don't get out until, and nonviolent offenders, by the way, until you've paid back the people, you've given restitution to the people that you've hurt. So in my case, if I stole a car from you, $5,000, I'm in this place until I pay you back. And that's the way I think it ought to be. That way there's no overhead for the taxpayer. We're not on the hook trying to pay to secure this person. They can go out and still be productive. And in fact, it's beneficial to society because when they get out of this, hopefully they can have that job. If they didn't have a job to begin with, we can help them get jobs and to pay for this stuff. And maybe learn some skills and continue on when they get out of this in a legitimate way. I think that's the real solution. And again, there's going to be people who won't play ball in that scenario. There's going to be people who are violent, and they're always going to be violent, or they won't listen to the rules. And that's okay. People like that, those people need to be in prison and locked away from society and made sure that they can't hurt anyone. What do you think about that?
That sounds like a very good idea. Sounds like a very good idea.
This is the way I think it ought to be. And with drugs being completely legal, I think it would take huge chunks of money away from drugs, which again I think would start to destroy these gangs and destroy the incentive of young people getting involved in gangs and destroy the incentive of young people using violence to sell more drugs or to control territory for drugs or people clientele for drugs. I think this is really the solution. The war on drugs is in fact creating the problem in Chicago. The war on drugs is in fact creating the demand that the cartel is filling. The war on drugs is in fact creating more violence, more crime. And you were talking about how if drugs are everywhere, if you legalize them, it could end up really bad. But let me ask you, if you wanted to get, let's say, any drug, let's just go with weed, okay? If you wanted to get weed, weed is illegal right now. It's still illegal in Detroit, right?
If you don't have A card, yeah.
Okay, so if you want to get this, is it still accessible? Could you still get it even though it's outlawed?
Yeah.
So it really didn't go away. Drugs are still out there on the street, just like guns are still out there on the street. And the reason why is because prohibition doesn't work. When the government gets involved and they try to tell us what we can have, what we can't have, what we can put into our body, what we can't, these kind of things, these policies just don't work, because where there's a demand, there will be a supply. And if it's not a legitimate means of getting the supply, it's more than likely to be surrounded by crime and violence, and it's just going to perpetuate and get worse. And that is, frankly, that's why we ended prohibition of alcohol. And that's why I think we'll end the prohibition of drugs. Anyway, we got to cut to a commercial break in a minute. I want to give you some an opportunity for some final thoughts. You got anything else on your mind, bud?
No, that was really it, man. We just got to do better, and we got to stop segregating ourselves, man. Everybody want to be separate and stuff, man. And another thing that can help us a lot, and I'm not by any means racist. I'm not against shipping people off that's foreign. But if you are foreign and you come to move to America, you should not get a 5-year tax-free life, period. You should pay taxes just like I do. And that's another issue. You get these people, they come over here, they get them a gas station or something, they got 5 years tax-free. When 5 years ago, they come, they sell it to their mom or their brother and their sister, and they got another 5 years free. You know what I'm saying? And a person like me, I can't even go to a bank and get a $100,000 loan.
So why shouldn't?
You know what I'm saying?
Why shouldn't? All right, let me just back up. And in fact, I'm gonna push the break for a minute, because you've touched on something that I would love to actually talk about. How does it hurt you for someone to not pay taxes? Because this kind of falls into the you're not paying your fair share of taxes kind of argument. And
it doesn't. Taxes can go down a lot more. Let's say that if everyone paid, no matter what, taxes go down a lot more. For instance, I've been standing in the U.S. I'm 26 years old. For 26 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I hit 18, whenever I got my first job, I had to pay taxes. They took taxes. I don't care if you're 16, 15. Your first job, you got to check taxes.
Uh-huh.
Now, you get foreign people who come over here and they get tax free. It's stressful to the citizens that's already here to see you driving a nice car that I can't even get. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you tax free. You're tax free. I'm not. You tax free. Why is that?
So what?
You pay taxes too.
What I'd like to do is actually push this towards the core. I like to look at things in the core reasons why we're talking about it. Why is it a big deal? I think this is talking about it's kind of in the same vein of paying your fair share of taxes. But let me ask you, instead of advocating for somebody else being taxed more, why aren't you advocating for you being taxed less?
No, I don't want nobody to be taxed more. I think I'm gonna put it like this: if you make $1 million, right? I think you should be taxed 10%. If I make $100,000, I should be taxed 10%.
Okay.
We both took our share. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Your $100,000 you lost out of your $1 million
mm-hmm.
is what you paid.
Yeah.
That's still equal to my $10,000 I lost out of my $100,000.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't get mad at you and say, "Oh, you should pay more. You make more money than me." No, that means now I have to get off my ass. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can cuss on here. I have to get off my butt, make it happen, and make this as much money as you, so I can say, you know what? I can do this. I'm an equal person all around. I don't believe rich people should pay more tax. I don't believe in that. I think we all should pay 10%, 15%.
So that's the flat tax. I actually support the flat tax as well. It doesn't. I'm not a fan of progressive income taxes where people who make more money are getting taxed more percent of their income. I'm not in favor of that. I think it stifles growth. And again, I think that also is part of central planning, which is a core tenet of Marxism, and I don't support that whatsoever. So, for me though, I actually don't support coercive taxation. I don't like the idea of any amount of your income being stolen from you without your consent.
I agree.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think most people, if they were asked to donate what they could to, for example, let's say the fire department or a hospital, every year you get your tax form, and it asks you what you're willing to donate, and it'll just come out of your paycheck automatically throughout the year. And you can basically just say, all right, I'd like to fund the fire department, I'd like to fund the police, I'd like to fund the hospitals and roads, and whatever you choose to fund, you should be able to voluntarily go down the list and decide what you want to fund. I know I would do that. Would you?
I would, but then let's just say they did do that. I think that'll work fine. I'm thinking too far ahead. I think that a lot of people wouldn't support a certain business and how that business is supposed to get their money. Yeah, I mean...
What do you mean by business?
I don't support police officers at all, period.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all police officers are bad, because they're not. I actually know a couple that's actually pretty good. My owner of my football team I play for is a very good person. He's a cop.
Mm-hmm.
And I love him to death. But the majority of police officers that I have encounters with, it just not right, and I wouldn't support them, period. And I know everybody in Detroit, I'm going to give it a good 90%, 95% would not support them.
So they wouldn't pay for the police, is what you're saying?
Not at all.
Okay. And let's say the 5%, it can't fund the police. Let's say that there's not some private benefactor that's extremely rich and can fund this stuff all by itself. What do you think would happen without any police provided by the government as a service? Do you think that there would be lawlessness?
See, it's hard, because then it goes back to what I was telling you earlier, constitutional carry. I'm going to say this. I would never call the police ever in my life. Ever. I don't have a reason to, never will. The time is, let's say I'm at home and somebody breaks into my house. I have my fire, I got my protection right there. You have to get me the phone, dial 911, get an operator, explain yourself, and tell her you need help. Then she has to dispatch out to somebody else to send them to your house. And you don't know how far it is from your house.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think the 95% in Detroit, for example, that wouldn't pay for police, do you think that they would fund a private organization, a private company, a private business to do security?
Not at all.
You don't think they would buy have a service from a private company to defend them, to protect them?
I say, let me ask you this: you say protect somebody. You can't protect somebody if you're not there. I have a fiance and 3 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't protect them when I'm not around them. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All I can do is give them the tools to use while I'm not around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the reason why we, as a society, decided to create our government. We decided it's easier for us to work together to secure our communities, to protect our life, liberty, and property. That was the whole reason why we created the government.
You're better off with a neighborhood watch.
Exactly. So there'll be ways that we'll figure out how we'll accomplish that. If we decide that we don't want to fund the police because, for example, we don't like the way the police aren't accountable for their actions, or we don't like the way the police treat our neighborhood or our community, then in a situation where taxes would be voluntary, you could decide not to fund that, and you can look for an alternative. You could decide to empower the individual, encourage people to carry for the purpose of protecting themselves and their neighbors. You could also fund, as what happened in Texas. There's a private security company in Texas that's doing the police work, and when you have a private company doing that, their private companies operate so much differently than government. Government, if you've ever dealt with the government before, you ever had a problem with your driver's license and the DMV, or trying to get some kind of paperwork stuff done with the government, they don't care.
Most definitely.
Because they know there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to screw them over. They're going to get their money, all right? They're going to get their tax money from you no matter what. And it's different with a company. If companies are customer service oriented, so if they're providing a service for you and they're doing for lack of a better word, crap job, you're not going to
customer's always right.
Yeah, you're not going to continue buying that product, which in this case would be service of security. Now, granted, not every individual will be able to buy a bodyguard, but as a community, you can come together and donate what you can to provide that service. I don't think that it would be lawlessness, even in the case where people don't fund the police. However, I do think the vast majority of places will choose to fund police. And if they don't, I think they'll turn to a private alternative or an individual alternative, such as a gun. And you're absolutely right, though. You can't protect your family when you're not there, which is why I think there's nothing wrong with us coming together to collectively to protect each other, to make sure that the people out there that have ill intent have, first of all, some kind of deterrent, knowing that somebody's going to respond with guns, and second of all, it's also the pro-liberty answer. This gives you the most freedom with the least amount of coercive force from the government impress upon you, and it also allows.
You just gave me an idea.
What's the idea, bud?
This is a very good idea. The problem with the police now is that they're out to get us more than help us. That's the biggest issue. You catch cops sitting in the corner waiting on you to speed to give you a ticket, right? Well, how about we take these same police officers that's out here and you assign them to a district only, and they're on call. Let's say you get a neighborhood that say, you know what, I don't want to pay for security over here, and enough people don't want to pay for it. They don't have security over it. You know what I'm saying? That's their choice. But then you get a neighborhood that say, we do want it, we'll pay for it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you get cops that just drive around in that neighborhood. We're not out. This cop is not out here to give you a ticket. They don't care what you do. You can smoke weed outside. They don't care as long as there's no crime being committed. You know what I'm saying? They just drive around in a squad car. Same police officers out here right now. That would make everything a lot better. It's more. The problem with the officers now is you're out here to get me more than you is to help me. You ever heard people say, I called the police and they locked me up?
Yeah.
Like what? Like, that has happened to me before.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I call the police, I get locked up. How?
Yeah, it's just one of those things too that happens because the police, like every other human being, has their own incentives, and they want to make the arrest, they want to get the collar, and they also know that they are the enforcement arm of the government, of the federal and state leviathans. So
they're protected.
They're protecting their own. They're protecting the bureaucracy. They're making their money. They're shaking us upside down from our ankles and collecting the pennies that fall out of our pockets. It's graft, and it's become an us versus them mentality in many police officers. Now, not all. And I want to be the first to say that I absolutely, wholeheartedly give my full support to oath-keeping peace officers, people that are out there day in, day out, just trying to keep their community safe, and people that are they're actually good people. They're not trying to hurt anybody. They're not trying to violate people's rights. They just want to protect the life, liberty, and property of others in their community, and they swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. Those are the officers that I support, and I think there's a lot of them out there. But I do think that the bad apples in the bunch can first of all make everyone look bad, and second of all, the bad apples in the bunch, if in a leadership position, can poison the whole batch. What would you say about that?
Yeah, most definitely. I think we need to come out with punishments for these officers. The same police officer. If I can't lie to a police officer, he shouldn't be able to lie to me. But it's okay for a police officer to lie to you, and I find that's bull crap. Do you know that if I killed somebody today, do you know if I gave a statement the same day, I'm stuck with it. But if a police officer do it, he has 72-hour respiratory. If he gave a statement the same day, he can change his story 3 days later, and they have to erase everything he said before that. Why is that? He another citizen just like me.
Yep.
I thought we was paying him to protect me.
Yep.
But you giving him all this leeway and all this luxury stuff that I don't have. If you off duty, why when you get put over, you have to tell another cop that you're a cop? Why is that? You're not a cop right now. You're a citizen just like me.
Yep, absolutely.
You're a citizen. You're not a cop right now.
Well, you know what I'm saying? That's all police
and
are.
That's my problem and hate with them. And that's my problem. I don't want to say hate. That's my dislike with these cops. Y'all get all this luxury stuff I don't get to get.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't have it, man. And it's frustrating to know that you get away with murder and lying, and I can't even get away with walking across the street without going to a crosswalk.
It seems like so many people are willing to just to accept the idea that police somehow get some kind of extra rights just because they wear a badge, and they don't. To be clear, the reason why they carry guns, that is because we all have that right. We all have an individual right to defend ourselves. The government isn't empowered or imbued with some kind of special rights that allows them to carry that gun to defend the community. They're actually simply asserting a citizen's right to protect themselves and everyone around them. That's all that is. In fact, when I was unlawfully arrested, the police asked me why I had a gun with me, and I said, "Why do you have a gun? Why does she have a gun?" I'm pointing around to the other police officers, and my point is, the reason why we all were armed in that instance was for the purpose of protecting ourselves and others. That was why I was armed first and foremost. That's the first reason why you carry a gun, and it should always be the first reason why you carry a gun. But that doesn't come from anywhere out of the ether. It's not like the government just bestows that upon you. We all have rights as human beings, and I absolutely oppose any police who are violating natural rights, being overzealous or aggressive, but more importantly, let me just point out, I do think that the vast majority of police officers are good and well-intentioned. My issue is the incentives that they have, and I don't want them to be incentivized, because incentives go a long way. It's why we do everything we do. It's why you get out of the bed in the morning. It's why you go to work. It's why you put food in your belly, because you have an incentive to do so. So I don't want to incentivize the police to look at us as enemies. I don't want to incentivize the police to try to target us to make a buck and to continue shaking us upside down. What I would love to do is incentivize a working relationship between us and the people that are supposed to protect us, the people that we're paying money, good money, to protect us. And I'm a big fan of privatized security. I think that is really what a lot of people would choose, but there has to be a way, almost like one of my favorite things I really like right now, what's going on in technology, for example, Uber. If you've ever ridden an Uber, you get the ability to rate your driver, and they can rate you as the passenger. That has an awesome free market incentive right there. You having the ability to rate the person that's providing you your service, and them having the ability to rate you back, I think is excellent. If we could figure out a way to do that to our police departments in some way, or at least have some way of holding them more accountable. I don't want to hamstring the departments, and I don't want to headhunt police, but I do want to make sure that they are extremely, extremely accountable to the people.
I like that. I swear you come up with good ideas. Because just like, for instance, you know what? That'd be a good idea, man. When a cop pull you over, he should have something in his vehicle that he gives you. After he's done with his interaction with you, he gives you this electronic thing, and you should be able to punch in your social security number, I'm saying, without him seeing it, and give your rating. You know what I'm saying, for that officer. That would be excellent. You know what I'm saying? And if your rating don't stay up to par of at least 4, you know what I'm saying, at least 4 to 5 stars, you should get fired.
Yeah. It
should be penalized. You know what I'm saying? Why is these people don't like you? What's going on?
It's to me, I think the big issue is us versus them, and I don't want to. Again, I do not want to divide us any further than we already are. I think that
Amen.
This racial politics where it's my side versus your side. Let's break ourselves down into these little groups, and my group is advocating for this, and my group's advocating for that, and if we're at cross paths, we're enemies. I don't see it that way. I see us all identifying most of the same problems. I just think the main difference that we have here is we're coming up with different solutions, and I think my solutions, in fact, they're not mine. They're free market solutions that a lot greater minds have thought of. I'm just happen to be riding on their coattails. That's really all it is, and these solutions work, and it's the reason why America is the greatest country on earth, not because of the people, but because of the philosophy of our government and why it was created, and this liberty that we have that allows us to be unleashed, and it unleashes human incentive and allows people to choose what's best for their life. And that, I think, is the answer. But, Elijah, we got to cut to a commercial break, man. I really have enjoyed talking to you today. Would you be willing to call back again sometime soon, man? I'd like to talk to you again.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for joining us. Anyway, folks, we're going to cut to a commercial break. And, again, I really do appreciate you calling in, Elijah. All right, we're going to go ahead and cut out here. We'll be right back after this break, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Have you visited the On the Move with Mack Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support. Are you an activist who needs affordable flyers or brochures for passing out literature? Or a political candidate who's looking for business cards, logo designs, yard signs, or vehicle decals? Email me, Latasha Worley, for all your graphic design needs at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com. And don't forget to mention On the Move to get a 10% discount on all graphic design services.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Welcome to the second hour, Mac Pack. I really appreciate you sticking with us. I hope you all enjoyed that conversation. I know I did in the first hour with Elijah Woody. It was really enlightening. I really thought he had a lot of great insights. So, as I said, I was watching last night the movie Barbershop. I think it was the second one. If you haven't seen it, it's extremely political right from the offset. They say they're in a new era. They cut to pictures of Obama. They talk about how, but even though that they have the first black president, first of all they don't feel like he ever really did anything for them. They actually ask in the movie, when's the last time he did something for them, for the black community? And they said that it felt like the recession never left their neighborhoods. I think that feeling is not specific to just black neighborhoods, to black people. I think it's everyone here. We're all still living in a recession, and our government is telling us, first of all, that we're not, that everything's fine. The stock market's at all-time highs. What do you complain about? Businesses are struggling. Companies are laying people off. Our jobs are being moved overseas. And why? Why is all of that happening? What's the root cause? Regulation, overtaxation. You kill the incentives of people to create jobs, of people to produce. This is one of the things that the progressive left, I thought, understood, and when they dealt with cigarettes, using the sin tax. And they've completely changed the game when it comes to cigarettes. Everybody used to smoke back in the day. Everybody used to smoke. How many people do you know that actually smoke cigarettes now, especially young people? How many people do you know that smoke cigarettes? It's going away. Slowly going away. Because taxation is a tool to disincentivize activity. when you tax something, people do it less because they can't afford it. So when you tax work, when you tax people being productive and producing things, you have less wealth and less production. So right now we have a huge regulatory state that's choking us to death, making it impossible, practically, and literally in many cases, for us to create jobs, for us to even take risks. Because you're living paycheck to paycheck in many homes. You can't afford to take that risk. You can't afford, if you're a business owner, to make that expansion, to try something new, to grow your business. You're choked out. The government's got their boot on your neck, and you're breathing at their pleasure. And our economy is just chugging along with barely any growth. And as a result of many factors, many factors, it is wreaking havoc within black communities specifically that are facing gang violence. Again, the deep recession, the deep poverty in some of these neighborhoods is itself a condition that leads people to be incentivized to go out and engage in crime because they think they'll make money. They are incentivized to make money so they can feed themselves and their family, keep a roof over their head. Now, I'm not making excuses for them because everyone has a choice. You have personal responsibility. You have the ability to make decisions for yourself, and you ought to be responsible if you hurt someone else or take their stuff. I am not making excuses for criminals. Not in that business. In fact, I'm very, very, very tough on criminals. I think if you hurt someone, you should go to jail. Probably prison. Depending on the level of heinousness of the crime. The punishment should match that. And you shouldn't be released back into society until you're no longer a threat. I don't care how long that is. Whatever special crime you've done, you've inflicted upon someone, whatever harm you've inflicted, the punishment should match. And when you come out of jail, you really should have paid your debt to society. And I agree with what Elijah was saying. I have a big issue with the over-felonization of America. We're making everything a crime, and if you get picked up on anything, again, it's a crime. And I think it was California to travel with lobsters or something. I know it's illegal to have a ferret in some states, and for example, a pit bull. The government is just getting way too big and trying to nanny state us and telling us how to live our life. And first of all, that costs money to have that kind of apparatus. So they tax us in order to fund this behemoth. And again, the problem isn't solved. The answer is always more state intervention from the government and from statists, from politicians. They're looking to use and wield that power. And some of them have genuine hearts. Some of them really want to make a difference. But they're looking in the wrong places. The government can't save us if they're the ones harming us. So again, the poverty in these cities, like Chicago, either makes it so that families, two parents, have to go both work, sometimes 2-3 jobs each, in order to pay just their cost of living. If you're lucky enough to have two parents in the household, but this leads us to the conversation of the welfare state. Unfortunately, the welfare state has decimated the black family. And that's just not my opinion. Those are facts. Go check out the statistics of how many black families had two parents back in, let's say, the 60s. And this was a time this is one of the worst times, the most turbulent times of racism in America. You're talking about Jim Crow, yet they were a strong family unit. They took care of themselves. They taught values to their kids. They taught their young black men how to be men. What it meant to be a man. What it means to take responsibility for your family and to take care of them. It was a different time. But really, what changed is the government. It's now more valuable in some black families for the father to not be in the picture. The family as a whole will make more welfare money with just one parent there. When you incentivize something, you get more of it. When you disincentivize something, you get less of it. They're creating an incentive for black men to leave the house. So we have more of it. We have young black men growing up in households without a father, without a male role model. That's a big problem. That's not just happening to black communities, but specifically we're talking about this. This is happening all over the place. But as a result, these young black men start, again, turning to gangs because the gangs offer a source of protection in a crime-ridden neighborhood, but also money. Money, 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 money. The gangs have access and control over drugs. So that control over the drugs leads to them fighting for control over drugs again from other people. Again, as Elijah was saying, these people are incentivized to fight because somebody's taking money out of somebody's pocket. They're, cutting into their territory, cutting into their money. And the people who are willing to be the most violent, the most ruthless, are the ones that win these kind of fights. That control the most territory, control the most clientele of people buying drugs. So I hear all the time from people on the left talking about how guns are the problem. Guns are the problem. And again, I don't think guns or drugs are the problem. They're part of this. They're part of this issue. But the real problem is the attempt of the government to control. The government's acting like a gang themselves. Biggest gang on earth, you can't beat them. Governments. But the war on drugs has failed. The war on drugs has incentivized people to create unregulated, untaxed, uncontrolled black markets. If it was simply legitimized, there would be a lot less crime associated with drugs. And we could just punish the people that were actually bad people, the people that were hurting others and taking their stuff, instead of filling our prisons full of nonviolent offenders. And then those nonviolent offenders have the stigma for the rest of their life, can't find a job, fall back into this cycle, get hooked up to the welfare state, don't have to work, but you're not really going to be loving your life. So you're incentivized to make more money to better your situation, but you can't do it. You can't do it overtly. You can't do it legitimately, because if you do, you make more money over the table, and the government will cut your benefits. So overall, you're actually making less money, and you're incentivized not to work, at least not legitimately. Again. So, why is there violence? It's the government. And let's talk about Black Lives Matter. Now, look, I'm not a fan of this organization because it is Marxist. And if you haven't read their manifesto, I highly encourage you to take a peek at that thing. It's first of all, their manifesto is in fact racist, and it is Marxist. It purports that black people should be given a special kind of citizenship, a special protection, special favor from the government. That's wrong. That is in fact racist, and it stems from supremacy. It's wrong for me as a white person to think that I have supremacy over anyone else. It's equally wrong for anyone else of any color to do the same thing. Supremacy is wrong. Supremacy is immoral. So let's talk about Black Lives Matter for a second. If Black lives truly did matter to this organization, and I think that their hearts are in the right place. I think most people who support this movement, I think most people are genuine and not hateful people. Now, again, that fringe is there. The fringe at a Black Lives rally, at a Black Lives Matter rally, I'm willing to bet that the majority of people there are genuine and not hateful. But again, that element is there of the fringe, of the hateful. It's equally there on the right, in the alt-right, for example. And it's something that should be resisted. But I think we can connect to people in the middle. I think we can connect to the people that aren't on the extremes of both sides. So, again, I've made the arguments for, no drugs. I don't think there should be any gun laws because those don't keep us safe. I don't think there should be any gun laws whatsoever because not one of those keeps you safe. Not one, because the guns are still there. It doesn't matter if you outlaw it. It's still there. And again, the process of outlawing creates a underground market, a black market. And those black markets will always create more crime and will create organized crime. Then it gets really bad. When two crime organizations start fighting each other, as we see in these cities, that's what's happening with the gangs. It's organized crime. And these organized crime families essentially is what they are. Blood and the Crips. They're crime families. No different than the mafia back in Prohibition. They're fighting each other. So you get the government out of there. Get the government out of drugs. Get the government out of guns. Get the government out of marriage. Get the government out of every aspect of your life that we can. And there's a lot of ways we can get rid of that. There's a lot of areas that we just don't need government. But let's address one of the things that Black Lives Matter says, that black people, for example, aren't on a level playing field with white people, for example, because the system is systemically racist against them. Well, I will say I think that there's probably some merit to the fact that black people feel that police are targeting them unfairly. And in many cases, they probably are being targeted unfairly, harassed. And again, I think part of that, the reason for that, is the us versus them mentality of some police. And some police really think that being overzealous and violating people's individual rights and being really aggressive, trying to stop crime before it happens, is a solution. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Again, I don't believe in pre-crime fighting. There are some methods of policing that attempt to stop crime before it happens that I support. Like, for example, using data from where all crimes have happened in the past and find out where crimes typically happen at what time, what day, what time of day, what spot. They'll look in the data and be like, okay, in the last 10 years, this spot has had some kind of crime at this time on this day every single year for the past 10 years. Well, it doesn't hurt to have a police officer just show up and be there, be present, physically there. But it doesn't mean that the police should go up and just start, frisking everyone. Again, we have a right. All right, we have a right against the government conducting unlawful searches and seizures. They have to have probable cause. They have to have reasonable suspicion. If they conduct searches without that, they violated the Constitution. They broke the oath that they swore to uphold and defend the Constitution, and I don't support that. But that's one problem. But another problem is also the the violence coming from these communities. It's unfortunate, but there is an epidemic of crime coming from the black community. And again, it all leads back to the war on drugs and gangs. No black fathers in the home, or very few anyway. Again, that barbershop movie I watched, one of the things that they said, there was two black fathers bonding over their children. And the guy said, it's like seeing a unicorn, because you just don't see that. Again, this isn't me saying that. These are things that they're saying about their own community. And it's not their fault in many cases. Again, some of this is personal responsibility, but other parts of this is incentives that the government has created. The incentives are the big issue. So I want to talk I want to talk more about this level playing field here. I think Black Lives Matter is right, like I said, in being perhaps targeted by overzealous police. I disagree with them in that I don't think that all police are bad. I also don't believe that all police are racist. I think very few people are racist, legitimately racist. I also think it really does damage credibility when we start just levying the title of racism around and start calling everyone racist. And saying everything is racially motivated. Like, for example, three very common cases that are brought up. Let's focus on two specifically here. Trayvon Martin was killed by a Hispanic man after Trayvon attacked him. Yes, the Hispanic man, George Zimmerman, followed him around, but that doesn't give you the right to attack somebody. And Trayvon was no angel himself, but he had George Zimmerman on the ground, MMA style, on top of him, ground and pound, punching him into the concrete. And he was shot because George Zimmerman was afraid for his life. That's not a good case to talk about racism against black people. This isn't a good case to point out. George Zimmerman wasn't a white guy, as the narrative has been made. Eric Gardner, he was killed on film. But why? Why was he killed? It wasn't because he was black. It was because he was violating the law. He was selling loose cigarettes. And the government will get their money. They want to tax that. Again, they're the enforcement arm. The police. They will go out and collect. If you violate the law, the police will come get you. This is the reason why there should not be laws against things that don't hurt other people. And it's not, people aren't trying to take their other people's stuff. This is why you should only have laws against things that to prevent people from hurting people or taking their stuff again. And I'm not talking about pre-crime. I'm just saying it should be illegal for me to come in and try to hurt you or to take your stuff. That should be illegal. My freedom to swing my fist ends at your face. So Eric Gardner, he was killed for taxes, not because he was black. Michael Brown, well, I've talked about this extensively. Hands up, don't shoot was a lie. He tried to take a police officer's gun, then tried to run away after the gun went off in the car. The police officer gave chase, told him to stop. Michael Brown turned around and tried to linebacker tackle Officer Darren Wilson, and he shot him because he was afraid for his life. Michael Brown was a huge man, huge giant of a man. Over 6 feet, like 300 pounds or something like that. Big guy. By the way, he was involved in a strong-arm robbery 10 minutes before the altercation, which is why the police officer stopped him in the first place. Not a good scenario. It doesn't fit the narrative. Black Lives Matter damages their credibility by continually saying, hands up, don't shoot, because that was based on a lie. It doesn't fit this racist narrative. But what does? The Charleston shooting, I would definitely say that was a racially oriented crime. That was a racial crime. That was a hate crime. Dylan Roof himself said that the reason why he did it was so that he was hoping that he could start a race war. Yeah. Now, if Black Lives Matter was talking about that all the time, which I don't hear that brought up too often, and that was one of the most egregious crimes that they could have talked about. Why isn't that picked up? But that's different. That was a private individual, a person, not the government. And there's going to be racist people. There's going to be evil people. There's going to be sick people. There's going to be people out there that just want to hurt others. There's going to be people that don't care about the law, don't care about anyone else. All they care about is what they can take from you. And if you get in their way, they'll kill you. And those people shouldn't be in society. We can't stop people from doing evil. We can only throw them in jail when they do. Because we don't have the ability to look into people's hearts. We don't have the ability to read minds or predict the future. And people have free will. People are going to do things. Some good and some bad. The moment we realize that we can't control all the outcomes is the moment we're free. Once you realize that you're not in control, you're not the pilot of this ride, you're free. Let people be free. Let people choose their own paths. And if they choose a path that hurts others or takes their stuff, they should be punished. They should be removed from society. And regarding this level playing field, I think maybe with the interactions of police in communities like that, maybe they have black people have a more adversarial situation. Maybe they feel that the police are more adversarial to them. Maybe they are adversarial towards the police, and the police are also responding to that. I can speak from firsthand experience. Police don't like it when you give them any kind of attitude, even if it's just telling them no, that you're not going to hand over your ID, or no, you don't consent to any searches or seizures. So maybe that's the situation. Maybe it's a whole lot of different factors, and I'm sure it is. It's not just one thing. But the epidemic of violence coming from the black community, and more importantly, coming from the gangs, I think the only way to answer these issues are all the stuff I was talking about earlier: ending the war on drugs, cutting taxes significantly, getting the government out of your life, out of your pocket. These are the real answers. And I don't think that the average black American is doing themselves any favors by voting for Democrats. And this isn't a Republican advertisement, by the way. I'm not a Republican. I'm just saying, if you're voting for somebody who's talking about increasing welfare, minimum wage, gun control, numerous entitlement programs, more police state, bigger government in any way, it's detrimental not just to the black community, but to everyone. But the effects of these statist policies have been, I think, more acutely felt in the black community. And I'm hoping that we'll see a change. We'll see an enlightenment of sorts among everybody. That it doesn't serve a purpose to try to turn to the government to fix our problems. They end up actually creating a worse situation, and then they create new problems as a result. I'm hoping that one day the 90+% of African Americans who vote for Democrats will stop. I hope that they will take the time to learn how these policies hurt them, even if it seems like it's helping them by giving them money. It's a double-edged sword. So that's my message. It's from my heart. It's sincere as I can be. I don't want us to be enemies. No matter what political spectrum you're on, what color your skin is, we don't have to be enemies. Especially if we're both trying to come up with solutions to a problem. And if we just disagree on the solution, that's fine. We don't have to agree on everything, and that is the beauty of liberty. I just hope that we can find our way back from this division, from this diversity politics, or whatever you want to call it. This politics of division. They're trying to split us up, and we are strong when we're working together. There's nothing wrong with working as a collective. Now, there's a problem with the philosophy of collectivism, where a group has more rights than an individual, but collective organization, collective energy is a great thing. And we need more of that, not less. Anyway, we're going to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the rest of our featured topics. If you guys have anything on your mind, give us a call. The number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, 360-450-5625. We'll be right back.
Have you visited the On the Move with Mack Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support. Are you an activist who needs affordable flyers or brochures for passing out literature? Or a political candidate who's looking for business cards, logo designs, yard signs, or vehicle decals? Email me, Latasha Worley, for all your graphic design needs at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com. And don't forget to mention On the Move to get a 10% discount on all graphic design services.
This is Dan Sandini of DaylightDisinfectant.com, citizen journalist, friend of the late Andrew Breitbart, and cohort of James O'Keefe. I listen to On the Move with Mack Worley because the only time he's wrong is when he disagrees with me.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Welcome to On the Move.
And we're back. I appreciate you all sticking with us to the break. If you've made it this far in the program, I would really appreciate it if you would smash the like button, share it out on your social media, tell your friends and family about it. This is how we make the show bigger, better. We get out there to more people. We spread the message of liberty. This is how you can help the show. I would really appreciate that. So let's go ahead and dive into our other featured topics. I have an article written by a good friend of mine. His name is Mark Watkins. It's titled, "What if Jeb Bush was the current president?" I'm going to go ahead and dive into this. Shout out to Mark. Okay, so the article is dated March 31st, 2017. He says, let me start off by saying that I'm generally not a big fan of the what-if approach to an argument or discussion, but I have to admit that Ben Shapiro and townhall.com make some good points in when does Trump become the establishment. Mr. Shapiro asks the question on what if Jeb Bush was our current president? What would be the reaction by so many so-called conservatives? This is a quote here from Ben Shapiro. After conceding to his right flank during the election cycle that he would move to overturn President Obama's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, Bush immediately backtracks and does nothing. After attempting to fulfill a campaign promise, he then pushes a bill that that would supposedly repeal and replace Obamacare, except that the bill does no such thing. Instead, he makes significant changes to Medicaid but re-enshrines the central provisions of Obamacare while also creating a new entitlement program. The bill earns the support of establishment stalwarts ranging from House Speaker Paul Ryan, Republican Wisconsin, to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky. Now this is back to Mark again here. Mark is saying, for my purposes, what the Republicans have formally named the American Health Care Act, or the AHCA, will be referred to as RHINO, repeal in name only. That's pretty funny. Care, by the way, RHINO Care. It has also been referred to by such names as Ryan Care, Swamp Care, Trump Care, and Obamacare Light. Can you imagine Donald Trump's friend at Fox News, Jeanine Pirro, absolving Jeb Bush for the failure of the passage of Rhino Care and stating that folks, I want to be clear, this is not on President Bush. No one expected a former governor to completely understand the nuances, the complicated ins and outs of Washington and its legislative process. I'm sure by sheer coincidence, earlier in the day, Donald Trump tweeted out, "Watch Judge Jeanine at Fox tonight at 9 p.m. By the way, side note from that, she led the show, starting out with Paul Ryan should resign, and Donald Trump tweeted out, "Watch her at 9." He later, this is a controversy that happened, a controversy. Later, Donald Trump's team says, no, that's not what he was intending to say. That wasn't his intention. He basically thought that she was going to be talking about stuff that would absolve him of some of these Russian connection claims that have continued to haunt this presidency. So that was why he told her, he tweeted out to watch her. But then she starts with that, and he's trying to backpedal here. But anyway, back to the article. Similarly, can you imagine if Jeb Bush was our current president, that radio host and staunch conservative Hugh Hewitt would appear on Meet the Press and state that the loss isn't on the president, it isn't on Paul Ryan, and it isn't on the Area 51 subcaucus of the Freedom Caucus, who believes in legislative flying saucers. For anyone still bemoaning the failure of Rhino Care and blaming its loss on the true conservatives in the House of Representatives, those that truly believe in the Constitution, may I suggest Chris Pandolfo's article at the Conservative Review, The Freedom Caucus Purists, you're bashing. New studies suggest they actually saved the GOP. Members of the Freedom Caucus are under vicious assault by media and by members of their own party, including the president, for allegedly sinking the GOP's health insurance reform plan. New research shows, however, that the Freedom Caucus's opposition to Rhino Care may have saved the Republican Party from a rout in the 2018 midterm elections. This is not to say that I have issues with much of what President Trump has initiated, such as the rolling back many of the onerous regulations by the EPA. What I worry is that so much has been done by executive action rather than going through the legislative process. Many times I warned those cheering on President Obama's executive actions that they may not like what his successors implement. I would issue the same warning to those cheering the actions by the Trump administration. I think it's very, very excellent analysis. Let me point out, and I've said this as well, you live by the pen, you die by the pen. If we continue to allow the executive to just write legislation and act as an imperial presidency, or as an imperial president, this is something that can easily be reversed if the next guy takes office. Again, that's why the issue here isn't about putting our guy in power, continuing to hold the power. It's about when you get the power, you push And you know what? Let me steal from Obama. This is a direct quote from Obama. Politics is like football. Most of the time, you're just banging into each other. You're just knocking each other around, and you're not making any progress. But every now and then, a hole will open up, and you run through it. You may make a few yards. You may end up scoring a touchdown. The issue here is not about controlling the power. It's never been about controlling the power. Yeah, you have to control some of the power some of the time in order to make a change, in order to do something. But once you get the power, it's about dismantling the power. It's about removing that power. I'd love to see an executive order that got rid of the executive orders, that made it impossible for another president to pass one. I'd like to see that restricted from the branch itself, because that's the only way it's going to happen. It's about removing the power structure. It's about removing things that give the government more power and more incentive to fight over the power. And again, the politicians aren't in a hurry to get rid of any kind of entitlement. They have absolutely no interest whatsoever in cutting back and taking away from people. That's the only thing that will be able to happen, first of all, to address the crippling debt that our nation has. Trillions and trillions. We're all, what was it, 20 trillion in debt now? 20 trillion? No big deal. Just ignore it. Even though I heard 16 trillion was a point of no return. No, don't pay attention over here. Watch your Kim Kardashian and Dancing with the Stars. Enjoy your bread and circus and shut up. This is what the statists want you to do. The people that pray at the altar of the state, look to them to take care of you, to protect you, to feed you, to clothe you, to provide for you, to keep you safe, keep you happy. And in regards to the article that Mark wrote, it is absolutely correct in that the Freedom Caucus did save the Republican Party. What's going to happen if the Republicans pass an Obamacare light, a Rhino Care? Well, it's going to put Republican fingerprints all over it. They're going to be the ones responsible. And ultimately the ones to blame. And again, it's going to isolate a lot of their base. It's why I said we shouldn't vote for Donald Trump, but he's our president now. He's a legitimate president. I accept this. I still think he's a progressive. I think he's done some good things, like the Keystone Pipeline. I like his position on that. Although it's not going to be that important anymore. It's not as important as it used to be, but it's still a great thing for us to have more infrastructure. I like that. I personally just think that it should be privatized, but I digress. When it comes to Donald Trump, though, he's done some good things and some bad. And the bad things are the things like trying to pass Trump Care, trying to grow the size of government. And again, he's talked about his he's in favor of the war on drugs. I think if you've listened this far in the show, you know where I stand on that. But the issue here is the brand, the Republican brand. I honestly think that this vehicle for our values, if you consider yourself to be a Republican or conservative, libertarian, that we've been using, this Republican Party, I think its time is coming to an end. And I think the Donald Trump presidency has really accelerated that process. It's illuminated the fact that these politicians, they don't really care about any of us. They're just paying us lip service. And the establishment is alive and well. It's just the Donald Trump establishment. It demands 100% loyalty. And if you do not capitulate, if you do not bend the knee to Donald Trump, who again is the establishment now, maybe he'll campaign against you. He's actively talking about how he's moving to the left and he's going to start working with Democrats. Something we wouldn't have accepted if he would have ran on this. He would not have got elected. He would not have gotten elected if he ran on this. I mean, just for example, look at Marco Rubio. The thing that killed him was working with the Democrats on the Gang of Eight bill. That's what did him in. And Donald Trump, now he's moving to the left, going to work with Democrats. He's demonizing the conservatives. This is an all-out war, I believe, coming on the conservatives and the GOP. And by the way, it's important to note that the people that were to blame for this bill failing were the people who wrote the bill and the people who supported the bill, like Donald Trump, like Paul Ryan, like the establishment. Those are the people that are to blame because the bill sucked. It did not repeal Obamacare. It still maintained all of the central planning mechanisms that we hated Obamacare for. You just name it something different. That's all you're doing with this. That's not repealing. But it is consistent, I believe, with what Trump has been saying this whole time. He's going to repeal and replace. There's a important thing to clarify on that, the replace part. What are you going to replace it with? Well, he said he was going to make a deal with existing hospitals, and they ask, who's going to pay for that? Well, the government's going to pay for that. Sounds like single payer. And that's what this will ultimately lead us to, and as I said, Bernie Sanders has been very clear. He said that this is not about Obamacare, this is about single payer. Government-ran healthcare completely taking over 1/5 of our economy, destroying the private sector providing health insurance, and then the only alternative left will be the government. That's what this is about. So let's also point out, by the way, that 15 members of the Freedom Caucus voted against this bill, and 18 members of the Republican parties voted against the bill that weren't part of the Freedom Caucus. So who was really to blame? The issue was the bill. The bill was the issue. It was a bad bill, and thank goodness that it didn't get passed. But I really do think, and I want to talk to my Republican friends out there, and I hope I haven't lost you up to this point. I hope you're still out there. I'm not going to tell you what to do or how to think. You're smart enough to come up with your own decisions or with your own opinions. But I would hope you would consider not hero worshiping people. Not putting all of your faith and trust in politicians who you've elected, because they don't care about you. They don't believe anything they're saying. All they care about is power and getting reelected. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial break. By the way, we got an action on Twitter here. Mark on Twitter says, thanks for reading his article. You're very welcome, Mark. I thought it was very well written, and keep them coming. But anyway, we're going to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to move to another topic here. Let me look at our list here. I want to talk about, let's talk about YouTube increasingly demonetizing conservatives and libertarians. So anyway, we'll talk about that when we come back. You guys don't want to miss what's coming up next. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign. Have you visited the On the Move with Mack Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
All right, we're back. Let's go ahead and dive into the next featured topic, YouTube censorship, demonetization. So let's start talking about what's going on with YouTube, first of all. YouTube has gotten a lot of complaints, and their advertisements pulled from a series of companies that include, I believe, Verizon and AT&T, if I'm not mistaken. And these companies are saying that they don't want their products or their advertisements shown on videos with hate speech, for example, is one of the categories they discussed. Hate speech. So YouTube is going around and they're demonetizing people who take, for example, controversial stances. Like, for example, one of the videos that I had has been demonetized. It was said to be unfriendly for advertisements. Or not suitable for advertisements, I believe is the word that they used in the email. And that episode was titled, Black People Can't Be Racist, ? And I was asking a question because it was a claim that was levied in an article I read. And that's what that portion of the episode was about. And again, if you hear me talking on this episode, is this hate speech? Am I saying that, white power or any of that other stuff? No, I'm not saying that. In fact, I'm specifically saying the opposite. Let's come together. Let's work together. We identify many of the same problems. We just see different solutions. And I'm making the pro-liberty argument, and I think it's the way to go. Now, you may have different solutions, and we should talk. Let's debate this stuff. Because I think when it's laid out, when the case is laid out in front of somebody, it's very clear that government can't solve this problem because they are the problem. They're the reason why people have incentive to do bad things in many cases. Because they're creating the underground black markets and incentivizing people to commit crime. Unfortunately, the very thing that is being done to prevent crime is creating it. Who would have thought? So, back to the YouTube thing. So, YouTube is going through and trying to basically turn off the monetization for people who they deem, apparently, hate speech or and somehow in violation of their terms and service or community standards. And by the way, for full disclosure, my arrest video was recently demonetized. However, I filed petition and they gave it back. They enabled monetization again. So I have to give them credit for that. But it shouldn't have been demonetized in the first place. And if this is happening, by the way, this is not just happening to me. Paul Joseph Watson of InfoWars, Alex Jones thing. Again, I don't really associate myself with them, but he's being silenced. And I don't know what some of, and again, let's be clear, it's not really being silenced. But if you're taking away someone's incentive, like for example, if this is how they're making their living, and in his case, I'm sure this is how he's making his living. He's making money from YouTube. He's probably making a lot of money from YouTube, whereas I'm not. But and regardless of if I'm getting paid or not, I'm going to be on this horn, yelling into it. All right, ringing the alarm bells. I'm not doing this for the money, and I'm not making a whole lot of it, but it is nice. And for people who are wanting to do this kind of stuff, podcasts, YouTube videos, things like that, if they're being demonetized, it may disincentivize them to continue doing it. And I hope it doesn't if that's the case. And I mean, I've got several videos now that are demonetized, and there's just nothing I can do about it. I filed for a petition, and there's nothing I can do about it. It was deemed in some way unfit for advertising, and there's no real way that I can do anything about it. I even though it wasn't hate speech, it didn't violate terms of service or community standards. Nothing I can do about it. In essence, I have been somewhat censored in a way. And I wonder if people on the left are feeling the same crunch as well. I know more than just Paul Joseph Watson. There are other conservatives or libertarians who this is happening to all over the place. I know I'm not the only one. So, again, I think the answer to this problem, because look, if Verizon, AT&T, whoever else, if they don't want to advertise on my videos, that's fine. I have no problem with that. In fact, I'm pro-free market, so hey, more power to you. You have the freedom of association. You can choose not to associate with me. However, I think that people are being caught in that dragnet, being labeled as something that they're not. Haters, hate speech. It's first of all, I think even hate speech shouldn't be silenced. Now, I think they could demonetize it if people don't want to advertise it. That's fine. But I don't think that the arbiter of what is hate speech and what is not should be necessarily YouTube. I think that the way this thing should work should give more power to the companies. If they don't like that their advertisements are on something in particular, they should be able to have the ability and control to take it off. They should be able to add and remove very easily. The power should be in the individual, the companies. They should be the ones being able to. The people actually advertising should be the ones that have that power, not necessarily YouTube. That concerns me. But it's something to follow, and it's not again. I'm not saying that YouTube doesn't have a right to do whatever they want. It's a private platform. I just really wish there was some kind of alternative to YouTube. I've had this conversation so many times, and people say, "Well, why don't you just start something?" You know. Oh, I don't know about you, but I'm not entirely eager to compete against Google, one of the largest companies in the world, and probably going to get much bigger in the future, especially with the development of AI. How do you compete against that? I don't know. I guess other than just pointing out to everyone that these are the things that they're doing that we don't like, and offering a service that is truly free, that truly allows you to express yourself, whether or not it is hate speech or not. Let the free market decide, and if people want to advertise on those videos, they will, and if they don't, they won't. And if people want to watch those videos, they will, and if they don't, they won't. The answer is not less speech, it's more speech. More freedom and more individual empowerment. That's what I believe the answer is. But let's go ahead and talk about another situation here. I have another article, if I can find it here. Let me see. All right, I got it. Let's focus on Russia for a moment in a different way. The media is focused on Russia insofar as the government. Oh, how much they colluded in the with the Obama. One second. There we go. Sorry, that was a clip that loaded. CNN has a lovely feature of autoplay on their videos. I can't stand this bulky website. Anyway, So, these big mass media organizations, such as CNN, for example, they focused heavily on the government. But let's focus here for a second, and I have to give them credit because they're at least covering this here, that the Russian people are not happy with their government. Here's the article. It's titled, "Young Russians Are Fed Up and the Kremlin Has Taken Notice." This article is dated March 31st. Here we go. Thousands of Russians who took to the streets over the weekend may not have vented their fury directly at Vladimir Putin, but the president certainly took note of the message. After the largest demonstrations in years, when crowds across the country took part in anti-corruption rallies, the Interior Ministry has warned that it will use the full extent of its powers to confront any future unauthorized gatherings. There's apparently no right to protest in Russia. You do not have a right to assemble in Russia, or at least not a respected right. Opposition supporters take part in the anti-corruption rally in central Moscow. You can see this picture. It has tons of people. I mean, they're standing shoulder to shoulder. It looks like a Jethro Tull concert out there, folks. But the warning has not impressed or deterred a younger generation of protesters who are fed up with the rampant nepotism, exasperated by the lack of accountability, and stifled by the lack of opportunities on offer in Russia today. Their grievances are directed less at Putin himself than at a system that has institutionalized graft and accelerated inequality. In some ways, they are reminiscent of the frustrations of younger, educated Arabs in Cairo and Tunisia in 2011. But it's unclear if Russia's anti-corruption movement can affect real change. This is what ought to be supported. Now, if this, I don't know if this is Marxist in nature, because they're talking about how it's accelerating inequality. Again, the issue is the institutionalized graft, or otherwise known as institutionalized slavery. We're experiencing it here, just to a different degree. The issues facing the black community that we were talking about in hour one are facing us all, and it is institutionalized graft and slavery from our government. The problem is the government. If we really wanted to affect change in the world, for example, to free people. Now, let's be clear. It's not our responsibility to free anyone else. It's not our responsibility to spread liberty across the world, all right? At the point of a gun especially. But this would be an opportunity for a United States president to say, yes, I support this movement. I support small government. And obviously Russia having a complete and total essential dictatorship, that's not small government at all. The people of Russia are crying out, and they want freedom. They want it. They're risking their lives and their liberty out on the streets right now protesting their government. Something that a lot of people in America, without those same restrictions, won't do. You imagine what would happen if the United States president said that he or she supported Russian freedom, the rights of Russians to assemble freely, to protest their government, the natural rights of all Russian citizens. I think that this movement does need some support. And look, the Russian people are not our enemies. Now, Vladimir Putin, the Russian government, they may have ill intent towards us, but the people aren't so different than us. They deserve freedom too. And it's not our job to give it to them. But we can certainly support it if they're doing something that is benefiting liberty. And I know of no better way. This was actually, I think Lincoln said this. I know of no better way to destroy an enemy than making them my friend. I think we ought to be careful of trying to be the world's police. I think we ought to be careful of trying to impose our will on other people. But I think it's our job to be custodians, so to speak, of liberty, to be stewards of liberty. We've created here in this nation something unique among history. Individual liberty above all else. We created our government to protect life, liberty, and property. I think it's incredibly important that we protect this philosophy of freedom, and we encourage it in other nations. We can't make them free themselves. They have to free themselves. It's a choice. It's a choice that we all have to make. It's a choice that our founders made. Thank goodness. The same choice had an opportunity to be made during the French Revolution, but they chose a different path. Again, every other government on earth is essentially either a dictatorship or a benevolent dictatorship. We are unique. This system of government isn't the best. It's not perfect, but it's the most best and the most perfect. There's a lot of room for improvement, but our founders wanted us to improve on that. I think that we need to look at foreign policy. It's as far as making friends and finding allies. That's great. But also trying to encourage and educate people about liberty, and rather than us trying to get in these spy versus spy situation with Russia, why don't we just encourage their people to be free? Explain to them how to be free, what it means to be free. So, there's people going to jail. There's people that were arrested. Here's a story here. A young woman, she was arrested. Her name is Malsh, I believe. Malsh. I'm probably saying that right. Malsh. Anyway, she was charged with resisting a police officer and given 10 days in jail. The 22-year-old says that they were meeting a friend in a cafe, went outside to film the protest, was immediately pushed to the ground, said they didn't resist, but they were still beat up, and said that the police told them to relax their body, and they did it, and they got hit in the head and dragged into a bus. There's another one that was arrested after intervening on her family's behalf when her mother protested the arrest of a young man. She was detained, as was her sister. And when they intervened, they were arrested. She says, her name is Olga. She says, I was in shock, Olga Lazena told CNN. I took a few steps toward them, and that was the moment when the policeman grabbed me by the hand. She said she was arrested and bundled into a bus with more than 30 others and wasn't released from the police station until 6 a.m. the following day. She has appeared in court, or she has a court appearance next month for attending an illegal protest. So corruption is at the center of this, according to this article. Navalny, something like that, has made corruption the big issue in his campaign against the government, and has focused on Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev. I can never say his name either. An investigation by his anti-corruption foundation promoted in a slick 49-minute video posted online claims Medvedev has amassed a corruption empire of lavish properties, luxury yachts, and vineyards across Russia. The video has been viewed more than 14 million times on YouTube alone. So, the Kremlin has reacted to this. The government, if not rattled by the latest demonstration, has certainly taken notice. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov claimed, without offering any evidence, that protest organizers had offered young people financial incentives to take part and put them in a dangerous, life-threatening situation, such as the protest. Now, it doesn't say anything about them destroying property. They seem to be peacefully assembled. So, Anyway, Russia's going through some stuff. And I think it's our job here as stewards of liberty to encourage them to finding their freedom. I think that is what we ought to be doing. But I'd like to hear from you. Give us a call, 360-450-5625. Again, 360-450-5625. You can get us on Twitter at OnTheMoveShow. You can get us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Anyway, we're going to cut to our last commercial break of the day, I think. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the pair behind Planned Parenthood video, those sting videos, how they were charged in California. So you guys don't want to miss what's coming up next. We'll be back with more.
Have you visited the On the Move with Mack Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support. Are you an activist who needs affordable flyers or brochures for passing out literature? Or a political candidate who's looking for business cards, logo designs, yard signs, or vehicle decals? Email me, Latasha Worley, for all your graphic design needs at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com. And don't forget to mention On the Move to get a 10% discount on all graphic design services.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
All right, MacPack. It's the last subject of the day. Our show is winding down here. By the way, we're in the third hour. This is the overdrive hour. Let's go ahead and get into the next article here. I want to talk about Planned Parenthood, specifically the pair of undercover journalists that were arrested and charged because of their video sting here. I have an article on NBCnews.com. Article is titled Pair Behind Planned Parenthood Sting Videos Charged in California. This article is written by Alex Johnson. The anti-abortion activists behind undercover videos targeting Planned Parenthood were charged Tuesday with 15 counts of invasion of privacy. These are felony counts, by the way, according to a criminal complaint filed in California. David Robert Dalindin, I can't say it. Man, by the way, if you guys are frequent listeners of the show, you'll know that I have such a huge problem with saying last names for some reason. That's Dalindin, I don't know. David Robert Dalindin and Sandra Susan Merritt used manufactured identities, this is a quote, and fictitious bio-research and a fictitious bio-research company to meet women's health care providers and covertly record the private discussions they initiated. California Attorney General Xavier Becerra said in a statement, "The right to privacy is a cornerstone of California's Constitution, and that right is foundational in a free democratic society," said Becerra. We will not tolerate the criminal recording of confidential conversations. So, Deladine and Merritt, if I'm saying this right, describe themselves as citizen journalists and investigators for the nonprofit anti-abortion Center for Medical Progress. In a statement Tuesday, the center responded by promising to release even more secret videos. The duo were separated. Separately indicted in Texas earlier last year on charges of tampering with government documents and buying and selling human organs in connection with similar videos made in Texas. Those charges were dismissed last summer. Tuesday's complaints listed no attorney of record for either Deladine or Merritt. In a statement, the Center for Medical Progress denounced the bogus charges from Planned Parenthood political cronies and said, "We look forward to showing the entire world what is on our yet unreleased videotapes of Planned Parenthood's criminal baby body parts enterprise." Anyway, I find it fascinating. By the way, California is a two-party state of consent, so if I'm recording something, somebody else has to know that I'm recording them. Both parties have to know. However, if you're in a public setting, as were these people, they're in a restaurant with lots of other people around in public, there is no expectation of privacy in public, and it is beyond astounding that these felonies for recording somebody, surreptitiously recording somebody in a public space. Again, it's just astounding that they target the people making the videos and nothing's done about the company who's profiting from the body parts of dead babies. I have a few comments here I want to read here about this. This is from William. He says, they should have checked the laws first. We can disagree with what the law is, but the law is a law. The case was tossed in Texas because it's Texas. There'll be Strickland. Oh, by the way, if you don't know about Michael Strickland, you should definitely check out the unbelievable case of Michael Strickland. He's being railroaded for that. He said they'll be Stricklanded in California. Lila Rose is damn lucky she hasn't been hauled in either. She violated the laws in Oregon and quite likely other states. Chris says the existence of liberals among us prevents justice. See Pajama Boy Judges. I asked Dan what his thoughts were on this. He says, by the way, Dan Sandini of the Daylight Disinfectant. If you're not sure who he is, check out daylightdisinfectant.com or youtube.com/Daylight Disinfectant. Good guy. Have him on the show a lot. We have pretty interesting conversations about all sorts of different stuff on the show. Anyway, Dan says, it depends on your interpretation of the law. California is a state where if you are in a public setting, you have no right to privacy in a public setting. It's why James O'Keefe was not charged with recording Susan Sarandon in a restaurant. She has no reasonable expectation of privacy. Of course, this will test the law. Unfortunately, some of these tapes appear to have been made in a doctor's office. I think it's quite easy to run afoul of the law while a medical professional is performing an exam. Two entirely different situations. All right, he makes a good point there. He also goes on to say, here's a great example of Illinois, Illinois, a democratic state, stoking down a similar law based on the First Amendment. He's quoting here. In two companion cases that arose outside of the employment context, the Illinois Supreme Court invalidated Illinois' eavesdropping statute, reasoning that its broad prohibition against non-consensual recording of conversation and publishing those recordings violated the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. He goes on to say again, if you are recording someone without their knowledge in a public or semi-public place like a street or restaurant, the person whom you're recording may or may not have an objectively reasonable expectation that no one is listening in or overhearing the conversation, and the reasonableness of that expectation would depend on the particular factual circumstances. Lynette goes on to say, unless you are an environmentalist trying to do sting video, then it's okay. Angela says, need protests at every Planned Parenthood. So, this is a major attack, I think, an affront to the freedom of speech, the freedom of press, the First Amendment, and it just goes to show you that when you become a target, by the federal state Leviathan, by the cronies. And I do believe that the Center for Medical Progress is correct insofar as they're being targeted by political cronies, people that are paid by or have incentive to support Planned Parenthood. They're being targeted. I think these people will go down as martyrs for the cause, and I really do think these are modern day freedom riders, freedom walkers. These are the modern day equivalent to those people standing up for something they believe in, and then being thrown into jail. Planned Parenthood's on the wrong side of history on this one, folks, and so is the state of California for this case. These people will come out, and I think their voices are gonna be even bigger after they get out of jail, if they end up serving any time at all. All they're going to do is amplify these voices. And again, this is all of these things, these big government solutions, they don't work. You want to try to control people, you want to try to remove people and silence their voices, censor them. Well, all it's going to do is cause them to get a bigger microphone. It's going to make a bigger news story and have a bigger impact. It's what happened with Milo with the UC Berkeley riots. It made a national news story. He was trying to talk to a few hundred people. Should have just let him talk. But I digress. Anyway, that's our show for today. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this, before the end of the third hour here. I really do appreciate you all tuning in week after week. MacPack, you're the tip of the spear, and I really, really appreciate you. Please feel free to share this episode with your friends, your family. Like it on whatever social media platform you're on. Give us a thumbs up. I would really, really appreciate that. And again, if you're new to the show, you've never listened to us before, this show broadcasts every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to check out our shop on our homepage, OnTheMoveShow.com. Check out our products. Buy them if you want them. If you don't buy them. Anyway, I also want to shout out to Elijah Woody. Thanks so much for calling in. I had a really excellent conversation with you, and I thought he did a great job, everybody. I really enjoyed that talk. So anyway, we're going to cut out. Let me give the spiel here right before we go here. Don't forget to check us out on our website, OnTheMoveShow.com. Like us on Spreaker.com and follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. Like us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Follow us on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow, and subscribe to us on YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. Also, we're on iTunes, so you can check us out over there. We're also on Podbean.com. All right, that's our show. I certainly appreciate you all tuning in week after week. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.